In 2025, the Arctic is no longer just a barren, frozen wasteland. It's becoming the focal point of global geopolitics. The once remote island of Greenland, with its small population and minimal infrastructure, has now taken center stage in one of the most high-stakes power struggles of our time. The Arctic is warming at an alarming rate, 4 times faster than the rest of the planet, and as the ice melts, new trade routes are opening up. Resource-rich territories are becoming accessible, and nations around the world are positioning themselves to claim dominance over this rapidly evolving region. Among these players is Donald Trump, who, after returning to office, has reignited his long-standing interest in Greenland. But this time, he's not just talking about purchasing it, he's considering military force as a means of securing U.S. interests in the Arctic. The question is, how far will Trump and the United States go to secure Greenland's strategic value? At first glance, Greenland might seem like a strategic afterthought. With fewer than 60,000 inhabitants and vast icy expanses with no significant roads or cities, why would the world's most powerful nations set their sights on this frozen island? The answer lies beneath the ice. Greenland is sitting on the largest untapped reserves of critical minerals in the world, resources that are essential for modern technology, defense systems, and renewable energy production. In fact, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, Greenland holds 43 out of the 50 critical minerals required for cutting-edge technologies like electric vehicles, smartphones, and renewable energy infrastructure. These are minerals that are in high demand and short supply globally, and access to them could provide a massive strategic advantage in the coming decades. But that's not all. As the ice melts, the Arctic is also becoming a new frontier for global trade. The Northern Sea route, which runs along Russia's coast, is already seeing a significant increase in shipping traffic. In 2023, nearly 37.9 million tons of cargo passed through this route, a staggering 60% increase from just a decade ago. By 2028, projections suggest that number could grow to 150 million tons, as shipping companies increasingly look for shorter, more cost-effective routes. The Northern Sea route offers a shortcut between Asia and Europe that's at least 4,200 kilometers shorter than the Suez Canal. For global trade, this represents a seismic shift in how goods will be moved across the planet. China, which already depends on the Malacca Strait for 80% of its oil imports, has recognized the significance of the Northern Sea route and is pouring billions into developing Arctic infrastructure to secure access to this critical passageway. Meanwhile, the Northwest Passage, which runs through Canada's Arctic waters, is also becoming a key shipping route. Stretching 5,700 kilometers from the Labrador Sea to the Chukchi Sea, the Northwest Passage could potentially cut up to 4,000 kilometers off the journey between Asia and Europe. However, the route is the subject of intense territorial disputes. Canada insists that it is internal Canadian waters, while the United States, Denmark, and other NATO members argue that it should be considered an international waterway. This disagreement is only likely to intensify as the ice continues to melt and the passage becomes more navigable during the summer months. As tensions rise, it's clear that the Arctic is transforming into a geopolitical flashpoint, with Greenland sitting at the crossroads of these emerging trade routes. The strategic importance of the Arctic is not just about access to resources and trade routes. It's also about military positioning. The Arctic is becoming a key arena for military influence, with NATO and its allies on one side and Russia and China on the other. In recent years, there has been an escalation of military activities in the region, with both NATO forces and Russia beefing up their presence. Since 2014, Russia has rapidly expanded its military infrastructure in the Arctic, making substantial investments in military bases, radar systems, and airfields. Russia's Arctic military capabilities include advanced missile systems and a significant presence of air and naval assets. In comparison, NATO's ability to project power in the Arctic has been significantly weaker, with the U.S. military struggling to keep up with Russia's growing presence. This military imbalance is becoming a point of contention, especially as the Arctic is viewed by both sides as a potential site for future conflicts. At the heart of this competition lies Greenland's strategic location, offering the U.S. military a critical vantage point for surveillance over the entire Arctic region. With missile defense systems and radar arrays located in Greenland, The US has a unique edge when it comes to monitoring Russian and Chinese activities in the Arctic. However, this advantage is under threat as Russia expands its military footprint. Another crucial issue influencing Greenland's geopolitical significance is climate change. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the global average, and by 2050, scientists predict that Arctic summers could be ice-free. This rapid change is not just an environmental crisis, it's also an economic one. As the ice recedes, previously inaccessible resources, oil, gas, and minerals, are becoming reachable. This has prompted many nations, especially those with Arctic territories, to explore and exploit these new resources. Greenland itself has been exploring its potential for oil and gas extraction. Although the country has long refrained from large-scale resource extraction due to environmental concerns, the temptation to monetize its vast reserves is becoming increasingly difficult to resist. The global push for cleaner energy sources, including renewable energy, has made Greenland's rare earth minerals even more valuable. Countries like China, which controls a significant portion of global rare earth production, are investing heavily in Arctic infrastructure to secure a stake in Greenland's resources. These investments not only include direct mining operations, but also ports, rail systems, and other infrastructure designed to extract and transport these critical minerals. Despite its vast resources, Greenland remains economically dependent on Denmark. Greenland's GDP hovers around $2 billion, with fishing accounting for nearly 90% of its exports. This leaves the country vulnerable to global market fluctuations and the ongoing challenges of climate change. In response to these limitations, there has been a growing movement toward Greenlandic independence. Calls for full independence from Denmark have been gaining traction, and with a target date set for 2030, the island's future is uncertain. While independence would give Greenland full control over its natural resources, it would also come at a high economic cost. Without Denmark's subsidies, Greenland would need to find alternative sources of income. China's investments in the Arctic, particularly in infrastructure and resource extraction, could provide Greenland with the financial backing it needs to secure its independence. However, this could also expose the country to the risks associated with China's debt trap diplomacy, where countries take on massive loans and ultimately lose control of strategic assets when they are unable to repay the debt. In this complex geopolitical landscape, the Arctic is becoming a battleground for global dominance. The United States, Russia, China, and other global powers are vying for control of this critical region, which holds the potential to reshape global power dynamics. As the ice melts and new trade routes open up, access to the Arctic's resources and strategic positions will become increasingly vital. The battle for Greenland, a country rich in resources and strategically located at the center of this competition, is a microcosm of the broader struggle for influence in the Arctic. For the US, maintaining dominance in the Arctic is crucial not only for military and economic reasons, but also for preserving its status as a global superpower. Russia and China, meanwhile, are working together to ensure that the West does not dominate the Arctic, using their growing military presence and economic investments to stake their claims in the region. As the US and its allies work to secure their interests in the Arctic, one key question looms: how will Arctic diplomacy evolve? The future of Arctic governance will be shaped by competing national interests, environmental concerns, and the need for international cooperation. While the Arctic Council, an intergovernmental forum made up of Arctic nations, has provided a platform for dialogue, the region is increasingly becoming a site of intense rivalry. One potential scenario is that countries like the US, Russia, and Canada will need to engage in more robust and perhaps even contentious negotiations to avoid conflict in the region. These negotiations could focus on issues such as territorial claims, environmental protection, and resource management. However, given the growing militarization of the Arctic, these diplomatic efforts may not be enough to prevent an escalating arms race in the region. Ultimately, the battle for Greenland is not just about one island. It's about the future of global power itself. As the Arctic continues to thaw, the region will play an increasingly central role in the global geopolitical landscape. Control over Greenland, its resources, and its strategic location will shape the balance of power for decades to come. The decisions made today will determine who controls the Arctic tomorrow, and by extension, Who controls the future of global trade, energy, and military power? The Arctic isn't just melting, it's heating up, and the race for Greenland has only just begun. The question is, who will control this critical region in the decades to come? And more importantly, what will the world look like when the dust settles?